That's cool.
Hello, everybody. It's Wendy Cherry of the Sanctuary Radio Show. So welcome to the Sanctuary Radio Show. As you know, whenever I start my live, I always like to share the live with my page. So if you give me a chance, I'm going to share the live and then we'll get right into it. And just a housekeeping note, I have in the building I'm in my office, there's construction. The construction did not start really in earnest until just now. So please just bear with me as we move through this, and we'll get right to it. This is a super important topic, especially at this time during COVID. And again, as you know, the Sanctuary Radio Show Summer School was all about us gathering our tools for the fall coronavirus. Now, I do want to clarify that I'm not necessarily saying that the second wave will be an increase in people catching it. It might be, but what I do know is that there will be more restrictions placed on us. That's what I'm clear on. Regardless, there will be more restrictions. So that is what I am helping us gather our tools for, both emotionally, physically, and spiritually. So today, my guest is Uriah Israel, and he is a farmer, a publisher, a printer, and he has a lot of stuff going on. So I am welcome, and I would like for you to introduce yourself to the guests.
First of all, I just want to thank Wendy for all the work that you're doing and inviting me to the show. There's so much going on, a lot of uncertainty happening today in America and around the world. You know, we have this COVID situation happening. We have, many people might not know it, but there's a gigantic locust swarm on 3 different continents right now, devouring a lot of food, a lot of crops, destroying people's livelihoods. It's in South America, it's in the Middle East, and it's also in Europe right now. And I'm pretty sure it's in some parts of Asia. That's serious. It started, I think, in the Middle East and ended up going into the Western, Eastern Africa, and then it started going up in Italy. And for some reason, I don't know how it jumped over the ocean, but it's now in Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay. And so this is a gigantic locust swarm. On top of that, we've had severe weather going up the East Coast. Yeah. You know, and I can imagine that's disrupted more, you know, food security, trucking, grocery stores, and all that. So my bottom line in saying all that is that we're dealing with a situation where food is not as secure as it used to be. We're going into supermarkets and not finding the groceries that we normally would find. They're not even taking stuff out of the boxes anymore. They're kind of like putting them up with cases, right in the cardboard boxes. And you know, we're also noticing too inflation, major inflation happening with the food. What normally maybe at the beginning of the year cost one thing, now it's like almost 25 cents more. And so with all that being said, many people are beginning to plant their own gardens. You know, storing food, hoarding, as they say, but you want to make sure that you do have food just in case something happens. Yeah. And so I believe in food security. My father was a sharecropper from Chattanooga, Tennessee, a small town called Ottawa, and I am a proud son of a sharecropper. And they migrated to Boston, Massachusetts in the early 50s. And so he has this gigantic urban farm right in the heart of Roxbury of Boston. And so like I used to think that everybody was growing their own food because we had so much of it. But then I found out as I grew older that many people didn't know how to grow food. They kind of depended on Mr. Kroger and Star Market and what else, Publix. And so we have to, for some reason, we've kind of begin to really depend on other nations and corporations for our food. And I think in the long run, that's going to hurt us big time. And so I took it upon myself to sharpen my skills and also to share what I knew with people. And I think it's super important that we, you know, we get ready as a community, because a storm is coming.
Wow. So let me stop you there and unpack a few of the things you said. So like you, well, for myself, I grew up in the suburbs, but in the summer times and any other time we were out of school, we would go to the eastern shore of Virginia with our grandparents.
Yes, ma'am.
And they lived on a field with cucumbers and all these different things. And my grandfather and his brothers were long distance hauling truckers of produce.
Wow.
So there was always peaches and watermelon and cucumbers and all these things around me as a child. And probably when I was about 6 or 7, one morning, my grandparents used to hire people to come and, you know, harvest the garden, I guess, harvest the fields. And I call myself going out, and like, you got a certain amount for a bushel, right? Certain amount for a half bushel. And I go out there with my little tender New Jersey fingers, right? Pick some cucumbers, and I got a rude awakening. But what I did know for myself is that I didn't want to do that. I did not want to be out in those fields burning hot. And I realized in my own self that the people who were out in the fields weren't necessarily allowed to run back and forth in the house and have lemonade and fan and go to the bathroom. Like, I knew that. So I said, I don't want to do that. Moving forward, I kind of regret not being so interested because of times like this. You know what I mean? So for all of you who are watching, I was a student in Uriah's last class on how to grow my own food. I see a lot of my friends on Facebook growing their gardens and all those things. So I was like, I can go to BJ's or I can go to any grocery store here in the Washington, DC metro area. And I'm noticing that the shelves are a little bit lighter. And I'm noticing that when I used to pay $1 per mango or $1 per whatever, they like $1.49 now. And the funniest thing was my daughter liked Chipotle. She wanted to go. So we went to Chipotle and she was ordering her food and she was so upset that the price was 70 cents. Like, she was aware that whatever she usually gets was way more expensive. So can you share with us exactly what food insecurity is and what does it look like for a middle class? What can it look like for a middle class person who is not paying attention at all?
Well, you kind of nailed it right there. Not being able to buy the food that you would normally buy, when everything was going good. I want to put going to the supermarket and just not being able to get what you normally would get from the supermarket. I remember like living in Boston during this, like you knew a snowstorm was coming. And so everybody would rush to the supermarket and buy all kinds of milk and bread and everything. And then like, if you got there too late, it was already wiped out, you would go back home. And then later on, the trucks would come in and replenish. But today, let me see, January, February, March, April, about April, you begin to notice the shelves were not full anymore for some reason. The trucks had stopped rolling. The farmers were actually tilling over their crops, like thousands of acres of crops was just plowed over. You also heard in the news.
Why did they do that though? Why did they plow over their crops?
Well, they were saying that the workers, everything came to a standstill based upon the pandemic. And they said that it was unsafe for those farmers, the pickers, or like you said, they cut migrant workers even. Everything stopped. For some reason, the trucks were not moving. And so like food just came to a standstill. Okay. They were killing livestock. They had to cull livestock, pigs, chickens, beef. They just killed them. And so at the same time, you come to the big city, you look down the aisle and you see empty shelves where meat used to be. I remember standing in the Kroger's, and there was a guy standing there with his son in the carriage. And he was looking, he was just like shaking his head like, where's all the bacon and salami and bologna, whatever he was gonna buy. And I was like kind of looking at him like he's completely unaware that there's a crisis happening. And so, I just, you know, I just kind of have my finger on the pulse of what's going on. And so I know several truckers, and they were saying like remember the price of gas was so low that it was almost, they would rather you not drive a truck than to drive it because you would be losing money buying gas. And so he was telling me, he said, I'm stuck in Texas, I can't move, we're really at a standstill. And so that's what happened around the whole country. Everything became at a standstill. And so therefore, and they had some bizarre reasons for not allowing the food to flow. All I gotta say, yeah, see, so like so at that point, I said, you know something, I think I need to double my garden production, what I'm doing here. And then several people reached out to me about like classes. And next thing you know, I kind of just, you know, threw it out there. And then I had one group and another group, and everybody was just all over the country. Right. And so food insecurity, going back to that, also too, consider this, you may have worked at a restaurant or wherever you worked at, now you don't have the money that you normally had. Try here in Atlanta, try going out to eat after 8 o'clock. There's nothing open. All the restaurants, like you know, a lot of those mom and pop restaurants that we love so much, closed their doors. Yeah. You could only do takeout. You couldn't sit down and eat. You know, like everything kind of slowed down a great deal. All of that's part of the insecurity that we're dealing with. So I, you know, but this also has a silver lining. Yeah. And I'm gonna say this, is that this forced people to say, man, I can slow down. I don't have to punch the clock anymore. I can work from home. And now I have to cook meals. I really would like to grow some tomatoes myself. Let's see if I can do this. And so that's what happened. People began to, I know my family was already making a lot of things from scratch, but now they've kind of like doubled what they're doing. And so with all that being said, food insecurity, this pandemic is opening a door of opportunity for people who should be growing and have a little bit of knowledge. And if you were curious, now's the time to do it. Don't wait to, start saving seed, planting. I think that it's crucial that we grab hold of this and run while we can. Okay, so I do want to talk about that for a second and welcome everybody who's joining me. And please excuse the banging because they're just right here and they're banging. So you talked about seeds. So it's funny because since I'm taking your class, I saved my seeds. So I have my apple here that I ate. And at some point, I'm going to get around to picking the seeds out and putting them on a piece of paper or a napkin to dry them. Yes. And so I've had like a whole bag of apples. And that's what I've been doing over the last few that I've had these organic apples. I buy everything organic. Yeah. And so I try to hope that that's what it is, you know. And this is my watermelon juice that I had. I bought a seeded watermelon the other day. So we've been eating it. I've been saving the seeds, but then I also eat the seeds because they're good for magnesium and I'm magnesium deficient. Yeah. So there are different uses, you know how when they say people use the whole animal or the whole whatever. Yeah. So can you tell us a few tips? So what I learned very, very quickly before I go on mute and I let you explain, is that when you're wanting to grow, so I live in a building, but I have awesome southern exposure. So I was always like, I don't have a yard. I don't have a field next to my house like my grandparents did. Yeah. How can I grow food? Yeah. So can you talk about the different ways that people can grow food from a sill, from a balcony, from a deck, and then if you have a yard? And let's talk about what those different opportunities look like. Okay, great question. So like you said, you made it really clear during the class that, you know, you had like southeastern exposure, the sunlight, you had excellent sunlight. And so if you have a porch or a balcony and it has that type of sunlight, you can put different planters outside, you know, on this porch. You can, you know, use planting bags. They have these bags that you could actually put soil in and grow crops. They're very inexpensive. And then also too, you know, use what you have. I like George Washington Carver was a big proponent of recycling and using what we have. So we go out, we buy these jugs of water. apple juice, highfalutin apple juice and water, like distilled. So now instead of tossing those out, you take something, maybe a box cutter, and cutting around that and making yourself planters. Like you can have 4 or 5 of those instead of buying these pretty planters that go on your rail. You can put these in planters, maybe on a stoop, or just put them right on the floor and let them be used as planting pots. We're coming into a cool season now. Okay, we're starting to change seasons. Okay, we're in the middle of August, and probably like maybe in about a month, we're going to start turning the corner for cool season crops. And what I mean by that are your brassicas and your root crops, your leafy greens. This is what everybody wants, is leafy greens. I want that kale, spinach, arugula, cabbage. So now's that opportunity to do that. As the sun, we talk about the southeastern sunlight, right? So the sun comes up in the east. Now, therefore, as a change of seasons, the sun is going to be lower in the horizon. Now you're going to see that it's not as high as it used to be. It's not going to be as warm. So now this is the perfect time for those leafy greens to be grown, and this, like you can sprout them indoors. I have a little grow tray right now. My daughter started, but those cabbages and leafy greens, a lot of them sprout really, really quickly. And so like you can, like I told you in the class, seeds need a lot of moisture to germinate. They have to absorb a lot of water, and that activates those enzymes within that seed. The seed is a living being. Okay, it's not just some dust or a rock hard little piece of pebble, but it's alive. And so once you add that water to it, you are telling it it's time to grow. The enzymes begin to activate, and therefore it will start growing. So your job is to place it into a pot, get some potting mix. There's different things you can purchase, but also too, there's different things you can make and make your own blend. But but on that balcony, you can grow plenty of food. I know my yard. I wouldn't call myself a farmer. I'm a gardener. I don't have one of these days. But during let me see, April, May, June, we ate every day from our garden leafy greens. And my space, I would tell you, is not that big, but I just happen to know just getting in tune with the seasons and what can grow, where it can grow, and just being in time with in line with the time of the planet. And that's what we've kind of lost that as a group. We've kind of lost that.
So that's what I want to talk about, because people, like you said, now is the time for the cold, the leafy greens and the cold weather vegetables. So my sister, shout out to Cher, my sister and her husband, they grew over the pandemic. That's been sort of like their bonding thing, and they have grown some really cool things. So they were sharing that with us, and I think that was cool. My mom has been a composter for many years.
Wow.
So I know what that looks like. But you're talking about, okay, now I lost the seasons. We're going into fall and winter, depending on where you are in the United States.
Yes.
You taught me that, the zone. And, is that the proper term? The zone that you're in?
You have something called the USDA hardiness zone map.
Yeah.
If you like put in your zip code and type in USDA hardiness zone map, it will tell you what zone you are in. And hardiness means how cold will it get in your region, where you live, how cold will it get? And that will determine what you can really grow. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I can grow a banana plant, but it won't produce fruit because the growing season is not as long as it needs to be. So like as you go further in the south, to the south of Atlanta, maybe Savannah, further down to the border of Georgia and Florida, you probably can grow bananas, okay, and palms, a lot of palm trees down there. But here in Atlanta, Georgia, you're not going to be able to grow mangoes or bananas and some other tropical fruit. But there are still plenty of things that you can grow, okay? Yeah.
So I think that the best thing to do is to, somebody gave a resource the other day. It may have been you, but I thought it was one of the fellow students, about maybe contacting your extension office or figuring out what is the planting season for
Yes.
what you're interested in your zone. So I'm here in the Washington, D.C. area. I come to realize that's a 6A7 zone.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
on the back of my packets of seeds that I've been buying, I look for that zone, and then I can see when I'm supposed to be planting those things.
Yes.
So even though sometimes it's not the time, as long as I have the seed, then I can do it the next time. Because can you talk to us about how seeds were disappearing over this time?
Woo! I'm glad you went there. I do want to say this though, real quick. That was me who mentioned the extension office. You definitely want to just plug. There's a ton of resources online. The extension offices are one place that has a lot of information. They have schedules when to plant certain things. Okay. I do want to say that George Washington Carver was an extension agent, and he would go out into the community and share with his fellow farmers what to grow, different techniques, so that all that's online. Now, during this pandemic, now one of the silver linings of this is people not meeting in person, so they're offering classes online. So you can check out different things online for free. I think some of them, I know that in the past, they used different things you had to pay for, but a lot of things are available right now online. But now going back to the seeds, wow, seeds, that's a huge issue. And like, we want to get into a habit of saving our seeds, but at the, let me see, January, maybe like in April, you've seen different headlines that said seeds are the new toilet paper. Remember, there was a run on toilet paper. Now, even all of the feed and seed supply places, they were running out of seeds because people were making a run on those seeds, because they know that seeds, if you have seeds, and somewhere in the future, you can grow food. Okay, this kind of, when you go back into, let me see, the book of Genesis, you talk about Joseph. Joseph saved seeds. He knew that there was a famine coming. So he was able to prepare for that. So we have to be wise and say, like, okay, let me start saving these apple seeds and these watermelon seeds, and maybe go to Walmart or Home Depot and really say, hey, let me see what's over here, and take a look at them, and just like grab a handful, especially get something that you really like eating. Like, we're going into this cool season, so you might want to look at all those different leafy greens and grab they're very inexpensive. I'm gonna say that too. And so, like, you want to rack up and just kind of store them. Make sure that you store them in a cool, dry place. I know that I taught that sometimes the refrigerator is the best place. I have a crawl space where the temperature stays uniform all year round, very dry. And so I have a bunch of things saved up. And therefore, I'm trying to make sure that my family, along with the knowledge that we have the ability to grow food in the time of trouble. Okay.
So can you talk to us about how important it is to grow with the seasons, and even if you're not going to grow it yourself, to go to the farmer's market and get things in your area, because we're in the mid-Atlantic, you're in the South, to get things in your area that are local, because eating locally, I think somebody said within 50-mile radius, trying to eat those things is also good for your immune system. Yeah. So how important is the cycle, like how important is the cycle in the zone? Because I tried to grow a lemon like last year, because I didn't know. I just had a seed, put it in the water, and it started to sprout, but then it died real quick. And then I'm like, you don't grow lemons inside the house in Virginia.
Well, no, not necessarily. Okay, check it out, right? The scripture, we'll go back to the scripture that says there's a time and season for everything. And so, like, we have, because we're not agriculturally inclined like we used to be, we've kind of lost track of what time it is, what season it is. It's very important if you're growing outside to know what season it is. Certain things just won't survive. Kale won't taste as good out in 90-degree weather. It just doesn't taste the same way. Matter of fact, kale can get frozen over, and it tastes better actually when it goes through that process. And so different plants have different needs and different best situations for it to have the optimum flavor and also to grow as best as it can. You mentioned too about farmers markets. I want to touch on that. get familiar with your farmers markets, who's growing what. Like you really begin to see what's going on by what people are growing, what they're selling at the farmers markets. You see what crops are like, really like, oh wow, they have a bunch of tomatoes right now. So this is that season where tomatoes are like thriving at that harvest period, and you are able to say like, okay, now I understand. You know, like you ever hear people say I wouldn't buy a watermelon in December because it's not that season for it. I don't know where this came from. It might have came from Central America somewhere, which is too far to be eating, you know. So you want to like stay local as much as you can. I know that I don't buy, I look at when I'm in my DeKalb Farmers Market, here they have the labels of where the food came from. And so like I don't buy anything like outside of like Tennessee, Alabama, you know, everything around me. I'm not going that far. I don't want anything. I don't need a apple from Washington State. Okay, this apple's growing here in Georgia. So I'm very aware of that. You get the best taste, the best quality. It didn't drive in a truck for what, several days. They didn't retard the growth with some type of chemical. I'm getting stuff that was plucked off the tree and brought right to our farmer's market, and I'm getting the best produce for me and my family.
Right.
Okay.
It's so interesting because my aunts are in California, and so when I go to California, sometimes I get lemons and avocados right out of their tree, and it amazes me so much that I can just go and shake the tree and get these things. So the last time I was just there, just in January, I brought them back here with me. The lemon was the most lemoniest lemon that I ever tasted. It was just so good, and the avocado was amazing. So you know, when it becomes the season again, I've already put my bid into my Aunt Kathy. I'm like, please send me that, because the taste was amazing. It had a whole entire different taste.
Yeah, that reminds me, right? My father, who is really like I dedicate what I'm doing to his work, because he just was this amazing outdoorsman in Green Thumb. And so I've never seen so many peaches and crops. I remember like thinking that I had to go up into a peach tree to get the peach. He took a piece of a stick and waved it like this, and it just rained down peaches, and just amazing. And I did a lot of unsung heroes. My father wasn't the only person growing their favorite vegetables in their yard. He was just one. And so like, you know, I just take off my hat to all of the people that had farms, and we kind of like moved away from it, but we're going to get it back. I think everything's going to be all right. We're going to have to work and do a lot more. There's plenty of learning to do, but I think we're going to be all right. I think we're going to be all right. But go ahead. Yeah.
One thing for everybody to watch, and I told the class this, is Kamau Bell on CNN. He has the United Shades of America, and he did the whole show on the Black farmers and the plight, and how they were getting ripped from the USDA, and how it's just really hard, and how, you know, the desire is to pass it along to the generations, to the family, and keep the farms in the family. So we are on this kick of support Black business, buy from Black farmers. If you can do that, that will go a long way if you don't have the time or even the interest in growing. And so here in the Washington, D.C. area, in Tacoma, the Tacoma, Maryland area, my doctor, Dr. Nazirak Amin, is a farmer, and he has bees, he has all types of stuff. If you follow him on Instagram, it's Dr. Farmer Brother. And he always shows, he and his family, it's a family situation where they're out there growing. So I always know when I do need to go to the farmer's market, I'm going to trek and make my way over there so that I can support him, because I like what he's doing and I trust him, and I trust that I'll be getting really good things. And when I went for an appointment one time, they gave me this whole big old bag of like kale and Swiss chard and all types of stuff. They just gave it to me. And so try to do that if you can.
Yeah. Hold up. Don't jump past that. Now listen, if you're not going to grow, it's important to know your farmer. Okay. One thing I'm going to stress, if you say, hey, you know, like, I'm not going to be able to do this. I hear what you guys are saying. I'm not going to be able to do it. know your farmer. Go to your farmers markets. Join a CSA if you can, community supported agriculture project, where you can actually pick up produce. You actually pay in advance for it, and they will every week they're gonna have a bag of groceries from you. I remember I joined one and I had so much food I had to. It was just too much, way more than you could never get from the supermarket. The price was, I mean, it was, to me, is invaluable. But CSA, know your farmer, visit your farmers markets, check out what they're growing, and just get in tune with what's happening. Uh-oh. Yeah.
Trying to unmute because they're loud.
Okay.
So can you tell us about, just very high level, the moon cycles, why it's important to pay attention to the moon, and how to also do certain important things, even as small as manicuring yourself based on that was a fun conversation.
Okay, cool. I do want to say this, is that the moon, this is one of those things, once again, that we've kind of lost track. We've lost this information, and we're getting it back though. But the moon is a regulator of growth on the planet Earth. It is the closest heavenly body to us, right? 290 something thousand miles away from the planet Earth, and therefore it has a strong gravitational pull on the planet. And depending on the alignment of the sun, the moon, and the earth, or the sun, the earth, and the moon, is going to have an effect. It's going to pull. And so what happens is that the moon pulls the moisture or the water on the planet Earth, causing things to be to grow and stimulated differently than at different times of the lunar cycle. So during the full moon, when the moon is waxing full, maybe a week before it gets that full moon phase, this is a good time to cut hair, to plant certain crops, to even like if you want something to grow, that's a good time to cut. There's also a good time to put different conditioners in your hair, treat your hair, put different things on your face even. It's just an optimum time to even take certain herbs. Your body receives it better. One thing I do want to say is this, with that same moon cycle, okay, whenever there's a lot of rain coming, you can expect to see some floods because the moisture is being pulled up. So we just had a situation where this severe weather went up the coast, and I think the full moon was like the 5th or 6th of August, and we had a lot of flooding take place. And people, they mentioned it in the news, but the average person can't relate to that. Okay, and so therefore, a lot of different cities were flooding, and if you're aware of that, you'll know. You say, "Oh, I'm expecting some floods, so let me just chill out where I'm at, and I'll stay put." But that's one thing about the moon cycle here, Wendy.
Well, it's so funny because I used to have locks and I was going to cut them. And then I looked at the cycles and then I was reading some information, and the person I was reading the information said, do not cut your hair until after June 25th. Now, this was May. I was itching to cut it, but I just did it. I say, if somebody says, don't cut your hair, something so specific, then I'm just not going to do it. And so right after that, like a few days later, I cut it, and now it's already growing. Like it has grown so much. So I am working very hard, and this is what I want to talk about next. And thank you, Sabrina, for correcting me. It's at Dr. Farmer Brother, all the way spelled out on Instagram for Dr. Amen here, who is the farmer. Okay. But I want to talk about us being away from nature and what we can do to start to tap ourselves back into nature. And I'll give you an example. So grounding.
Yes.
I've been grounding for many years, but I absolutely know that I don't do it enough. Because I'm in a building, I don't have my own plot of land around me. And I know that they fertilize everything. And my preference would be to be in grass that has not been fertilized to death, Yes. So can you talk to us about what grounding can do, and maybe 2 tips for us to begin to tap back into our natural instincts as human beings, as we are working with the land and maybe starting to consider maybe planting our own food?
Woo, that's a loaded question right there. I'll tell you right, I was doing some research, and the earth is a gigantic, how do I put this? It's a gigantic primal battery, right? And we're not connected to it. We're wearing rubber sneakers. We're wearing leather on our feet. You know, we have different things that stop us. I want to say accidentally. They prevent us from tapping in to that source of power from the planet Earth. The sun's rays, the Earth absorbs all of this this magnetic energy from the sun. The molten core of the Earth is also adding electromagnetic waves. Then on top of that, we have lightning bolts and thunder. All these things, the Earth is absorbing all this energy. And so we need to tap back into it by touching the soil with our hands, and also stepping on the ground, just going barefoot in soil, like walking on a beach. You know, like I live in Atlanta, Georgia. There's no beach near me, so I take advantage of my front lawn, my backyard. A lot of times you'll see me walking, even let me see, sand, soil, concrete. Even concrete is also, yeah. But they do say that, let me see, like wood is not a good. We're thinking about conductors of electricity now, and so like so wood is not a good conductor. Rubber, of course, isn't. Plastic is not. Vinyl. These are not good conductors of energy. So like therefore, I walk a lot outside of my house barefooted. I love doing it. My daughter runs. She does it all the time. And so like, but these things will stop the what is it? Those positive charges, those free radical. Yeah. And so
inflammation. It helps.
Yes, the inflammation. Thank you. So
electrical charge in the body that we've lost.
Yes. So boom. And so then also too, we live in a soup of all kind of electromagnetic waves that are throwing our bodies, electrical systems off whack. We have cell phones, we have microwaves, we have Wi-Fi, all this stuff, 5G networks. They're all bombarding us, and so therefore, it really is really serious. We need to get back to touching the soil and being outside. Just being outside. Take a nature walk. Take your boots off and walk. You know, I mean, you know, I know the big cities, you're like, I don't want to walk out there, but find somewhere where you can take off your shoes and just kind of just stand there, chill out, even sit on a blanket, you know, like, but on the soil, directly on the soil. These things will help you. They'll recharge your battery, reboot your system so that you can have a healthier lifestyle. Absolutely.
I love that. And even for myself, like I have a shungite stone that I keep because I'm surrounded in here by Wi-Fi and all that. I used to have a necklace that broke, but I try to keep myself. I turn the Wi-Fi off at night because all those things affect your hormones. They are hormone disruptors. And so it is the first time in history that any of this stuff has ever been this impactful on the human, on the world, on you know, living organisms. So it's definitely something that we have to pay attention to if you haven't already. And what I did want to share is that, you know, you were teaching us to learn about our local area, learn about the farmers, learn about the seed people, who has the manure and who has all these things. But what I also learned during my research is that I learned about the African-American history of my town. I live in Northern Virginia town, and there is an amazing history that I had no clue about. I have never heard of these names. They're not named schools. They're not named streets, but there was a family that came here from, you know, that was here in Virginia, in Northern Virginia, and in the Alexandria, Arlington area. And a woman was a Black woman was the first landowner in this whole area. Her husband was still enslaved, and he worked with her to create and to tend the land. She bought his freedom, and then they created their family, and then they started to branch out, and more people came in to join them. So they were farmers and gardeners here in the Alexandria, Arlington area, and I'd never heard that story. So I got to that because I was trying to figure out what can I grow at this specific time.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow it led me to this. Somebody has created a whole website to document these things. And I think that that's really important, that if they could do it back then and all these technologies we have now, and that, you know, to respect their hustle and then to create our own hustle and to know that we can, you know, be as self-reliant as we can.
Yes.
I think that we learned from this pandemic that we rely so much on other people and systems for so many things. And I think this is the wake up call. If you are interested in heeding it, some people not, and that's okay. But for those who are interested, there are things you can be doing to prepare yourself and your family to be successful moving forward. Because if our ancestors who were kidnapped from their home can do it, we could do it here in 2020 with the internet. Yeah,
we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. I'm glad you mentioned the history. What my father inspired me to write these books called Let's Grow. Okay, because there was too many unsung heroes. See, because when people think about like agriculture and Black people, we think about slavery, sharecropping, and I don't want to do that anymore. We did that already. I don't want to hear about that, you know. And even when we hear about like different, we hear like George Washington Carver, the peanut and all that, and we really don't understand what they did and the innovations they created in the food industry. We were the innovators. We were the inventors. All kind of systems and processes we put in place. And so, like, I want to talk about George Washington Carver for a second, because, one of the reasons he's known as the father of what they call chemurgy. Chemurgy is what they call biochemical engineering today. So he would take raw food material and use it for other uses. So that's why he began to find all these different uses for the peanut. He was looking to help his fellow man. He's like, okay, there's the boll weevil had decimated these cotton crops. What are we going to grow now? There was a war about to happen in Europe. We had the World War II, which could be World War I and World War II. Different things that we used to rely on from Europe, like dyes and different things, we couldn't get those. So he began to make dyes from different plants. So this is what he began to do. And so, like, this is why he was so great. It wasn't just because of that peanut thing. It was because his mind was so wide, and he was able to use what he had to create what we needed. And that's what we're going to go through during this time right here. We're going to say, okay, I'm going to roll up my sleeves and get busy. And this is what we're going to have to do. And yes, we're going to survive. We have the internet, we have each other. And I think we have superhuman ability and will to do this. We will be successful. Yes, we will be successful.
I love that attitude. And, it's one of those things, we are the innovators. Our ancestors were the innovators of everything.
Everything.
So everything. I'm thinking, I know that my maternal lineage is from the Temne people of Sierra Leone. But I also know the Sierra Leoneans were brought to South Carolina, Gullah Geechee, and around that area because they were the pros at harvesting rice.
Yes.
So they, they were taken away for their brilliance.
Yes.
So that's passed down through our DNA. We still have it. It's the time to tap into it. And I know a lot of people, because I was this same way. I'm learning and evolving too. I grew up on the beach. I'm a Jersey Shore kid. I grew up on the beach and going camping. I've camped my entire life until I had a choice. And so I didn't respect the land.
Yes.
I just didn't, because it was just always there. I grew up on my mother's house that she still owns right now is 1.5 acres.
Wow.
My grandparents had 13 plus acres. So I grew up with land. I grew up with all these things, and I think I took it for granted. Yeah. Moving forward now, I'm realizing that these are beautiful resources. However, I am nature too. So I'm not necessarily going into nature or going to explore nature. I am becoming one with nature. I'm just being myself. We are nature. We're electrical beings. We have all the same kind of components that a lot of the things in the you know, in the water and in the sand and in the trees and in the forest. That's us. We're all one. We're all one. So I have been I have been reacclimating myself
Yes.
to myself
Yeah.
as a natural being, and going out into the forest and doing my grounding and sitting outside with the trees. And I have my one little tree that I go talk to. The roots are so strong. I put my feet on the roots and we just have a conversation. And all those things are like in the last few years for me because I didn't respect it before. So I think it's important that we go back to respecting ourselves and ourselves as a part of nature.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of our, you know, something getting back to, I love that. I love that going back into yourself, reconnecting yourself back into nature. That's one of our, what's the word, our responsibilities. We are supposed to be keepers of this garden called the earth. And so therefore we got, what's the word I'm looking for? We got kind of seduced away from what our true nature is. And, you know, like I remember I worked in a cubicle overnight, you know, like just way out of my circadian, or the rhythm of my life. It just messes you all up. And that goes back into it too. I heard a sister say that growing up in, what is it? I think Belize, she said, when the sun went down, everybody went to sleep. But so we just keep on working. We work till 3 or 4 in the morning. You know, it's just like, you know, like we got all this electricity and stuff. And it really has thrown our whole body off whack. We're tired. We're walking around like zombies. We're taking different things to keep us awake and alert. And like, we got to get back into the true cycle of our lives and what we were meant to do on this planet. And I love the fact that you said we are electrical beings. We're absolutely beings of light. And so, like, you know, getting reconnected back to the earth will only recharge us. The food that we grow will definitely like give us the energy that we need, and we will get back. I'm very positive that we will survive. We're gonna thrive during this time. I think that something's gonna be unleashed because of this situation that is gonna have a silver lining, just a great silver lining. And I'm actually looking forward to. I'm excited. I like this. I like the situation. And I think you know, we have to find like minds and work together too. One thing I'll say about this, about growing food, is that you're going to grow so much. One thing I find is I have so much vegetables that I have to share them with my neighbors. And they're like, you know, you just have to give it away because otherwise it'll spoil, you know, whatever. But you just share, and that develops community. And so that's one thing that we need to do too, is just make sure that we're looking out for our fellow man. Going back to my father, one thing that he made sure, we said we had to check on our neighbors. That was a big thing for him. Go look at the elders, knock on his door, make sure he's all right. Make sure he shovel off his walkway. And I think that we've kind of lost touch with that, you know, and we have to be concerned about each other's well-being, especially during this time, and that's part of our culture also.
Absolutely. Okay. I agree. And I think that's a great place to end it. Okay. That, you know, we have to stay connected. Yes. We have to get reconnected. We have disconnected ourselves with all the modern accoutrement that we have now, but really that's not human. And I think that, you know, during this time, it's time to tap back into our humanness and understand what that means, and understanding that we are nature. So getting out into nature, doing some grounding barefoot on the ground. I know you don't like to get your toes dirty because you just got your manicure, pedicure. But, you know, hey, it'll wipe some inflammation out your body.
Yes.
So how can people reach you? Because I know you have some classes coming up. I loved the class. I learned so much. So now I'm in the actionable phases where I learned it. Now it's time for me to get to it. How can people, you know, connect with you and take your classes that you have coming up?
Okay. I have a page. My publishing company, which I do everything through, is called Hidden History Publishers. That's on Facebook. We post our classes on that Facebook page. Also, too, can I give out my phone number? Is that all right?
Absolutely. Whatever you like.
Whatever I like. Okay, my phone number is 404-437-0500. 9750. You can text me or call me and say like, hey, Ryan, what's the next class? If you go to Eventbrite and search Eventbrite for Hidden History Publishers, you will see our classes listed. Our next class is starting August 19th. Is very, very inexpensive. I'm dealing with somebody I will say like this, jump into the class now because probably the next set is going to be a little bit more than what it is now. Okay, but go ahead and jump it on Eventbrite and search Hidden History Publishers. There you can also find my books. Let's Grow. I know that's probably backwards on your screen. Is it not? Can you read that? Okay, so Let's Grow is also on Hidden History Publishers along with some of my other products. But that's how.
What's your email?
My email is Let's Grow Course. That's one big word. Let's Grow Course at gmail.com, and you can text me there. If you have any questions about like what's going on in your garden, I like all stay connected and like send me pictures, like send me your successes, send me your like oh my goodness, what's going on with my plant. Send that to me so we can like talk about it. Maybe if I don't know, I'll definitely connect you with somebody that does. Okay, and that's basically it. Let me see. My number one more time is
okay, hold on. I'm going to put it in the chat while you're saying it. So 404
437 9750.
Okay, 404 437 9750.
Yes, that's it.
Okay, and so I am writing it in the chat. So anybody who wants to connect with you, you guys who have watched my show, or even if you haven't, if you're watching it later on YouTube, or if you're listening on Spotify or iTunes or SoundCloud, I don't really bring people on that I don't know, that I don't have my own experience with. And I learned so much in the class, and I was already interested in doing it. So I just attracted him. He was on another event. He was teaching a class through Sankofa Homeschool. Yeah. I was going to take the class with my daughter. She said, Mommy, I'm not interested in this. This is you. So I went into the adult class. And so now I had a good time and I learned a lot. And so now I'm going to put it into practice. So again, Uriah, what I love most is that you are so excited about it. Like your energy always comes through. You answer all the questions. You stay late on the call when we're having our class. Yeah. You called me. You looked at my balcony and you suggested some things that I'm going to be putting into place now. So I think this is a good place for people to start. So thank you very much for this. Thank you.
Listen, thank you, Wendy. Anytime, like I'm going to send you some other people I think that you also be interested in. We talked about that land, and I got a good contact for you about that. Preserving that family farm, getting your own farm if that's something you're into. So listen. Thank you very much. How much time do we have left? I think we got like 5 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, if you'd like.
No, I'm good.
I'm good. We can end it right here. I just want, unless anybody has any questions, I put your email in. Okay, the Facebook page is Hidden History Publishers.
Yeah.
And so I have tagged it, Latanda, down at the bottom. So my friend Latanda is saying thank you for the amazing information, and we got a few hearts and a few thumbs up on the information. So thank you so much.
Excellent.
And, come back and watch this. For those of you who really got some information, share it. That's a great way to, for currency is to share and to cycle it so that other people can get it. Other people can be interested in it. So we will end there. Thank you so much, Uriah, for your time. And we will definitely be keeping in touch.
Okay. Thank you, Wendy.
Peace.
All right. Peace.